Hello, and welcome to Twins Speak,
Also
known as that show that you know and love so dearly, where we talk about Twin Peaks episode by episode.
Yes.
And, this is the first one, this first take ever.
It is the first take. You will not believe how easy this is.
How few takes we had to do.
Yes.
And basically, we're going to talk about the pilot.
Yes.
Not the original pilot, which I already told. Oh, by the way, I am Tig. And who are you?
My name is Lucy.
This is Lucy. And
we are twins.
We are twins. That's
we are
why
in fact
we're talking
twins. This
about
is not
it.
fake.
This is not fake. But you want to know the truth anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, basically, this is the pilot of Twin Peaks, one of the best American or any nationality shows.
For that matter.
Period.
Yeah. And we will explain why throughout these podcast episodes.
How many episodes are there?
The first one is about 20-something.
Second is 22 or something.
Yeah.
Third is 18. So.
Wow. All right.
Anyway, let's get into it. First of all, this episode opens with Josie.
Putting on her makeup.
Asian woman Josie. Putting on her makeup.
Yes.
And then we transition into...
It's Pete. We meet Pete.
Pete and his loving wife, Catherine. And the great thing about this scene is that it set up their entire dynamic without really them saying almost nothing.
Yeah.
And it's all visual yeah.
He just touches her face and she's like, "Get away from me." And
he smacks her on the neck.
Disclaimer, she does not smack her. That's just for exaggeration.
Yeah, he like presses his hand to his mouth for some strange reason and like
no, anyway, he's like, "Gone fishing."
Yeah, and he leaves to go fishing.
Yes. And,
so we call it transition in the business. And then he goes out and then he's like, what does he say?
He says, "Oh, the lonesome foghorn blows."
And then the lonesome foghorn
does
blows.
Blow.
Well, before he says that.
Yeah.
And then he looks over and you know what he sees in the water?
He said, "It's Laura."
No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. We just watched it.
I know that, but it is Laura, and she's wrapped in plastic. She's dead. Not in that order. It's actually the reverse order. I did the same thing twice. Okay.
Yeah. Don't say how many takes.
Oh, okay.
but basically, he sees this dead person wrapped in plastic, so he goes and he calls in Harry and the gang, which is basically Harry and Lucy.
Harry S. Truman.
Sheriff Harry S. Truman.
Sorry, yeah.
And basically calls them in. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that this episode is not only it's great at introducing the characters in a very natural and flowing way. And I think the best examples of this are, for example, this, where it goes straight to he calls it in and it goes to the sheriff's station and he's like, oh, it goes to Lucy and then it goes to Harry and then it goes to Andy and then it goes to Dr. Hayward when they're down at the place.
It's very flowing, but it's just it doesn't seem forced at all. It's just like, oh, these are
it's a very natural progression.
And they're all very pure, cute people. Lucy and Sheriff Truman especially.
And the other examples of this I wanted to point out were like there's the scene where they're in Laura Palmer's house and then the police are and Andy is like, hey, there's what's his name, Janik Pulaski. Down at the mill, his daughter was missing too, and she goes to the same school. And then it goes to the mill where it's Josie where it's Josie storming up and saying like I'm shutting this place down, Catherine.
Yeah. And Catherine is just
she's livid
she hates
about
everything.
it, and then she fires that one guy.
Yeah, for no reason.
Yeah. And then my favorite example is with the one-armed man and Dr. Jacoby on the elevator. In the hospital.
It's so seamless because like it happens in a matter of seconds. You meet these two characters in a matter of seconds, and it's like you said, it sets up these characters because the one-armed man is
the
like
mystique of the one-armed man.
Yeah, he's like shrouded in mystery. And he's a little threatening a little bit, and then Jacoby's freaking,
wackiness.
Wacky, he's off the wall.
Yeah,
so.
And for some reason they just ignore him when he tells them that he was Laura's therapist. It's like,
which is vital information.
We have no time for this information. We got to go look at her body or something.
Anyway, other thing we talk about.
They get back to it a few episodes later, but still.
Yeah. We have to. Yeah, and next thing to talk about is the introduction of Cooper.
Oh yes, right.
Because he is
everyone's favorite character, not to be confused with everyone's other favorite character.
Pete.
No, no, Doughy Paulson.
No, he is
we'll
not.
Get to Doughy.
Relevant.
We'll get to Doughy.
No, Doughy's
shortly.
not important. Don't listen to him.
Doughy's very important.
Anyway,
he's the person who brings Donna to James.
But it doesn't matter. Okay.
And he's there for one other time. It doesn't show up again.
Anyway, with Cooper, he's just he's just so pure, but he's also
You know who else is pure? Doughy Paulson.
You know what? Anyway, he's very pure, but he's also very he's very committed to his job as an FBI agent, and the way it's like I just love his introduction in the show because he's just he's there for he's committed, he's serious, but he's also just like, what kind of trees you got around here? He's just he's excited by everything, and he loves I don't know I think he just loves people and adventure. So he's just a great character. He is a big part of Twin Peaks and the life of the show. I think.
Well, no, you're right.
It really is.
I think it's an ensemble show, but he is the core of it.
Yeah.
And because he balances the more seriousness and the more humor, comedic strangeness.
Yeah.
All those things, those words, those adjectives.
And then it's actually very interesting the fact that he is an outsider, yet he is a very big part of the show.
Yes. Well, that's and I'd say even if in this episode they were still figuring out what character he was really going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly a little colder in this, more calculating in that way.
Exactly, but as the show goes on, he becomes a little.
Well, not even really as the show goes on. Like in the next episode.
No, you're right. That's true.
He's warmer. True. He's more like these people.
Yeah, but it also kind of makes sense because he's. His initial first impression, he's very unsure about these people at first. Like he actually grows to trust a lot of these people pretty quickly, but initially, so his coldness kind of has sense. Yeah, I would think.
Yeah.
All right, on to.
Also, we took notes while we were watching, so.
We are reading them, yes. If you
we are reading them.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next thing is kind of talking about the reaction of
the badness of Donna.
No, we don't.
Not in a good way either.
Well, we're going to first talk about the reaction of Laura Palmer's parents.
Oh yes, her parents,
Sarah
well
and
acted, greatly acted.
Yes.
And it's Ray Wise and how am I forgetting her name? She was a Galaxy of Terror. How am I forgetting her name?
I cannot remember her name. I'm terrible at names, but she is amazing because. There's so many. Well, while Ty is trying to figure this out, there are so many reactions to Laura Palmer's death.
Grace Zabriskie.
Okay, great.
There we go. I remember it now.
But there's so many reactions to the death, and of course, the one closest to her mom, is going to be pretty intense. But I don't know. There's something about just how it's so visceral. Her scream, and it's so intense that you just can't help but feel, I don't know, her pain, her anger, her confusion. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in just for the first episode. So you really feel the pain that she feels. And she's just a great actress.
Yeah, and to go back to Ray Wise, Father Ray, or Father Leland,
impeccable guy, impeccable actor,
impeccable swamp thing.
Yes.
Yes, and the hit film everyone remembers, but basically. And this is one of the rare instances in the show where he's normal at all. Yeah,
because the rest of the show, you're just so used to seeing him just a broken down human. Yeah. He's just, trying to recover from his daughter's death. Yeah. And so it's just so bizarre to see him, just
kind of normal,
Yeah, he's just normal, and it's it's hard to believe a little bit.
Yeah, and even in the Firewalk with Me, the movie that takes place prior to all of this, he's still just a weird guy. Yeah. He's just because you know all of this stuff, you know, and of course they had to keep up the mystique, which we'll get to later. Yeah. Definitely. But basically the mysteriousness. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the mysterious, what were you gonna say? No, what I was gonna say is continuing with everyone's reaction to Laura Palmer's death. Oh yes, right. There's also James. There's James. Big forehead James. Jam.
Jam. And so he, not just him, it's just also just the reaction of the school.
Yeah.
Everyone in there is just, it's really weird because there's Donna, which we both have.
Her and the principal they lose it. They can't take it.
They cannot. For some reason, the principal's just very.
Well, listen. side note: the principal was a creepy police officer in Halloween 5, but he died. So I like to think that's what happened after this. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's very interesting that he's just so. Yeah, there's certain people you would not expect to be so, I don't know, taken over by emotion by this.
Yeah.
And then the people you expect who would be just kind of destroyed by this are not entirely. Like, especially Bobby, which was her boyfriend before this happened, even though they were both cheating on each other and they both didn't know that.
And he gets mad that she was cheating on him even though he was cheating on her.
Yeah.
It's all confusing, but
that's high school
but but not really. You know, it's not really Again, there's so many characters that they show.
It's really intertwined.
But it's not confusing.
Yeah, it's true.
It has such a brisk pace for an hour and 30 minutes, but it doesn't feel fast. It doesn't feel forced.
And it takes its time when it needs to. It slows down just to show you the glorious
nature. When they gotta touch each other's face weird. And then they gotta bury that locket because
because there's no way the police are gonna find him then.
and then they don't because mysterious gloved hand comes in and takes it.
Yep. Anyway.
Anyways.
The Norwegians are leaving.
Oh yes, right. The Norwegians leave. Also, Ben, the smarmiest character in the show, and you could see it right away.
Yes.
He
spits in the fire. That's how you know.
He's like.
Sorry.
And basically, I feel like he's one of the best acted characters in the show
100%.
because he's just so like he's kind of cartoonish, but it really works.
And it
doesn't feel too like off the wall. It's just enough so that it's like he's just like the smarmiest, just creepiest guy.
But it's not entirely. But he's just. But he's still charismatic. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's charismatic.
And that's what I love about these characters because they're not entirely like. There's a lot of despicable characters.
He's the town bigwig.
Yes. There's a lot of, like, despicable...
Glad-handed Andy.
Yeah. There's a lot of...
West Side Story.
Yes. He's also Tony in West Side Story, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Just, if you watch Twin Peaks, then watch that. It's just so weird. It's so funny. But, yeah, there's a lot of despicable kind of aspects of a lot of these characters. But you can't entirely hate them. That's the awesome thing about it, because it's just, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't too many I don't know, one-sided.
Yeah.
Things.
And one of the most good guy characters in the show.
Well worded, Ty.
Hey, listen, it works. Is in the pilot is it's not Doughy Paulson. He's not there for nearly enough time to flesh out his character.
I don't think he's very important.
to mold that dough into something stronger. No, I'm talking about Big Ed. Oil Farm.
My boy.
Big Ed Oil Farm.
Big Ed Oil. No, yeah, is that it? No, Gas Farm, not Oil Farm.
Listen, I don't remember. They show it like 5 times the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
and basically, just like Mike is the Snake Man. Let's go. Big Ed is Big Ed Oil Farm. Gas Farm. Big Ed Gas Farm.
Yeah, that's what they called me in school. Big Ed. You can just imagine.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite characters because he's just he's the most normal guy.
But he's put into these situations that are not normal.
Yes, but and he's also treated to bad writing all around him. He can't escape. It's all around him. And that's later on though. Yeah. That's with Nadine.
Tyke has very strong emotions about that.
Yeah, season 2. We'll get into that.
But and also I love Nadine. Like I didn't get to talk about this. But
we didn't do any other takes.
In the non-existent first take.
Yeah.
But she is like, you just like she has this kind of she has an eye patch and it's like what and then she's like the drapes we gotta get this drape runners running.
that's how she sounds actually. Yeah.
And then she just. It's like who the hell is this person and that kind of confusion continues for a little while actually and because you don't really know what's up with her, which is really great, and she's wacky and great, and it's just I don't know. I love her
because the show is equal parts fun and disturbing,
Yeah, definitely
disturbing. And concerning, but also just it's
so enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a mesh of of things that feel like they would contrast, but they work so well together.
Yeah.
That makes it all very compelling. And then the characters are the drive of that. And
exactly.
the first episode, the pilot, is very indicative of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like they're all just these weirdos, except for Big Ed. He's normal.
Yeah, he's normal.
He's just a normal guy in the throes of bad writing. Wait, did we talk about Leo?
We have not talked about Leo.
Oh, we haven't?
Yes, we have not. So.
Oh yes, the point I like to bring up, even though he's a scummy person, scummy man. We call him scum.
He's not, but he's not very threatening in this first episode. I don't.
He's not very threatening
because he's just
episode.
like, Shelly, you have to clean the house. I don't like these cigarettes here.
Listen, Leo, when you see him in the pilot, is not threatening, but
his big truck.
His truck is. That's the thing I'm always gonna say is that his truck when they're just driving up.
Who's there?
Come on, Shelly. Oh, Bobby and Shelly.
Shelly works at a diner and
he's the person that Bobby was cheating on Laura with.
Yeah.
But Bobby's like,
he wasn't cheating with Leo. What?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, I said
no,
Shelly.
that's not what I said.
Okay.
I said Shelly.
Okay.
But Bobby's come on, let's go. I'm going to be rocket man, whatever.
Pocket rocket.
3-piece rocket.
Yeah.
Or 3-stage rocket.
3-stage
That's what
rocket.
it is.
You the pocket rocket.
Anyways, they're driving up to Leo's place, or Leo
that's
and
where
Shelly's
Shelly lives
place.
because she's married to Leo.
Yes. And then they just stop in their tracks, and the music swells, and they see his truck there. That's another transition that's good, by the way. With the anyways, we're not gonna talk about that.
So,
let's later on. It's later on. Hold on. But they just stop in their tracks, and she's like, "Back up!"
Great Shelly impression.
I know, working on it for the past few, not takes. You know what I mean. But and then they back up, and there's a definitive sense of dread with Leo, and it's like who is this guy? He must be real threatening, and he's not. In the pilot.
But you will see how disturbing he becomes.
How threatening he becomes, and he becomes a really great villain until Hank shows up and ruins it, ruins the party pooper.
Yes.
Party Pooper Hank, they call him.
Party Pooper. Oh no.
Everyone's getting nicknames.
He is the worst.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
He's not in this episode because he's in prison, and they very elegantly address that when in the scene you see here on the screen. Ed is I think that's a pilot. Yeah. Ed is talking to Norma at the Roadhouse, and again, just the flow of it is from just scene to scene, snap, snap, snap. I can't snap.
Yeah.
And basically,
the Norwegians are coming. I mean, leaving.
And it's all very cohesive, and there really would be no better introduction to the series than the first episode, which you should watch anyways. Yes. But if there would be no better way of them making it,
Yeah, definitely.
For it to work better.
So, and you can look at this first episode in two ways. You can
look
at it as getting to know the people in town, or, as I like to think about it, Cooper and Sheriff Truman's first date. That's
effectively what it is.
Yes. And I will also talk about when they first kind of get together. When they first meet, it's this cool scene with the hallway, because you can see them they're far out in the distance. You're like, they're just talking, but they gradually kind of come closer to the screen, and it's just a cool shot. There's a lot of cool shots in this.
Oh, the cinematography is great.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It is the nature of it.
Gorgeous.
And that's what kind of makes you also want to keep watching, because it's the whole atmosphere of it.
Yeah.
It's not just the plot, it's not just the characters, it's just the whole atmosphere, the feeling of it. It's just, I don't know. It's really
there's
special.
a mood to it.
Mm-hmm.
And though speaking of people getting together, the most atrocious couple. Not the most atrocious, but close to it. All right. Is James, Jam, my man.
Big forehead James.
Big forehead James, that's what they call him. The Jumpster.
Okay, that's not what Yeah.
And
Donna.
And Donna.
Yeah.
We're not giving her a nickname because she doesn't deserve one. She's not inherently a bad character.
No.
Best friend of Laura. But she's just not acted the best.
Yeah.
I feel like
she was there was a much better portrayal of her in Fire Walk with Me.
In the movie Fire Walk with Me, a much better portrayal of her character by a different
She had
actress.
much more range of emotion.
Yeah, I would agree. But what about crying silently with your mouth open?
Well, that's true. There's something to be said about crying loudly with your mouth open.
Silently. She didn't make noise.
Yeah, she did. Eventually.
She's like,
She's like,
yeah, okay, fine. I guess it's compared to everybody else's morose tone.
Yeah, they did
melancholy.
Anyways.
What was I saying? Oh, yeah, right. James and Donna. The thing about them is I really do feel like their characters would be improved if they didn't get together. Because more on James' side. Not only because
biased, man.
I am biased, but also because I don't like Donna. You don't like her either.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, and the thing is that the reason mainly I'd say I don't like Donna is that, it's because, like, as compared to the rest of the cast, she just doesn't really bring as much to the show.
And I think
that's mainly why, I think. At least in my opinion.
In the pilot, though, I think that's not necessarily on show yet.
No, that's true.
But it will be.
No, that's what I mean. As the show goes on, you see there isn't too much, I don't know, in terms of...
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I think that there should be, because she's Laura's best friend, you know? There should be more there.
Like, there's stuff that she does, but it's not... But I don't know. I never felt that the feeling was really behind her. But the other thing I want to say about James is that the reason I really feel that they should not have gotten together and would have improved their characters, because James, one second he's with Laura, they're blah 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 blah, and then she dies, and then it's immediately on to the next girlfriend, what's her face, Donna.
Yeah.
It's just immediate thing, and then there's no room for him as an individual character, not really outside of that. He doesn't really
get to have his own story arc entirely.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that, like, he doesn't really have his own story arc. He doesn't get to stand alone, and, like, for characters like Audrey, she doesn't really need anyone to carry her story arc. She's just a really interesting, she's a really interesting character. She's really intriguing, and
she's a proactive character too.
Exactly.
So is Donna. But I just don't like her.
But Audrey's kind of involved with things, but she's got her own agenda. So that's why it's like, I don't know, it's a lot more engaging.
And I think James is constrained by his storyline being solely tied to
his big forehead.
Be tied to Donna and that stuff. I feel like because there's a great shot. And again, it's tying into the whole thing about the great cinematography that sort of gets lost later on in the seasons. Season 2 particularly, but because it becomes more of a TV show look to it as opposed to a more sprawling idea. And more clear too. But anyways, there's a great shot where James is sitting on the ledge of sitting on this mountain with his bike.
Good day for a picnic, huh?
Oh yeah, right. Likewise. They're sitting on this hill with his bike, just looking over this mountain and these trees and this mist, and there's a great sense of isolation with him, that because his girlfriend's dead, and of any character, that's isolation is the feeling you could most associate with James, because his mother is always on the road.
Yeah.
Big Ed's around, but he's just around.
He's just trying to get with Norma. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, Floyd and Nadine in her drapes, yes. And so James could have been a better. I feel he could have worked better as a whole in terms of the show. But
this is clearly becoming a podcast about James. But
listen, I have no quarrels with that.
Anyway, yeah.
I think.
No, but
I could call it the big forehead.
Man.
The foreground.
Let's keep going.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what we should do next. We should do the James show.
All right.
Jam.
And then we got the
Jummy.
All right, let's
Jummy and Snake.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Bobby and Mike.
Oh yeah, speaking of Snake.
Yeah, Sneak.
For some reason.
It is not late right now.
No, for some reason Mike's nickname is Snake.
Yeah.
And Bobby has a nickname too, but they don't say it till another episode, I think.
Bobby's just.
But anyways, the main scene we want to talk about is, of course, in the jail when James gets arrested for some reason because they think that he might be connected to the killer.
Yeah.
So what was that scene?
So it's my favorite scene in the whole episode, and is the reason why I actually wanted to keep watching. Not that there were any other reasons, but it's so, I don't know. It's not it's perfectly in place, but it's so just spontaneous that you're like, what the hell is this? And so you have to keep watching. So James is just like looking at them. He's like scared. He doesn't know what's going to happen, and then they're just staring at him, kind of like slightly open mouths, and their eyes are wide, and then Bobby goes, "Hur, hur, hur," and then they just start barking like dogs.
That's magic.
And it's amazing. And I was like, I need
this is
this
what
in my
cinema
life.
can do.
I needed this in my life. That's what I knew.
This is the pinnacle of anything related to the silver screen.
Yes.
Or the small screen, whatever they call TV.
Yeah. Can you imagine though in the 90s how like it's weird now, like when I first watched it, but can you imagine in the 90s just that must have been just
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we
yeah.
were children of the 2000s.
Yes, so we cannot.
We cannot empathize with those
we cannot imagine
with those babies, those fools.
Yeah. Anyways, another scene, kind of.
Oh yeah.
The main scene that happens, a lot of stuff happens in the episode is the Roadhouse.
Oh yes, the Roadhouse.
And that's when Bobby and Mike go.
After Bobby and Mike. Snake and whatever his name is. Snake Man, let's go, and the other guy.
Yeah, because Donna sneaks out to go meet up with James and touch each other's faces awkwardly.
And then they're like, let's be boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah, basically. So then they're going after him because Mike and Donna are actually together, which makes no sense because they have no chemistry whatsoever.
Well, it's kind of a high school thing, you know.
Yeah, but
they
have no chemistry, and it's just not believable.
But the Roadhouse scene is very much the what do you call it? The climax.
Definitely the
climax of the episode, and where things sort of come together, you know.
Yeah.
Not all the characters, but the important characters of the episode are all in the same area, and
No, and then just it's so much chaos, kind of in a matter of minutes.
It's organized chaos.
But it is, and it's not. That's the thing. Yeah, like you said. Back to the pacing. It's just the pacing is so perfect. Everything about it. You don't lose focus. You don't lose interest. It's just so, I don't know, really engrossing.
Yeah, and then there's this lady singing, then there's bikers.
But then they start a fight.
Mike and Bobby show up.
Mikey.
No, the Snake Man, let's go, and Bobby show up, and then they get beat up by the bikers, and then of course Doughy Paulson is like, come on,
he does not matter.
Let's go meet up with James, and then they go.
But anyway, then Big Ed tries to intervene to save, try to
stop Mike and Bobby.
Yeah, from, I don't know, being mean to Donna, and then freaking. What does he say? Bobby hits.
Oh yeah, Lucy wrote this down.
I did write this down and I can't find it. Lights out, Mr. Monkey Wrench.
Yeah, okay.
Like the most non-threatening thing to say, but
yeah. Again, Bobby's not a threatening man, But threatening teen with his floppy hair.
Yes, yeah, but
and
floppy
his
hair.
can-do attitude.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's no Snake Man, let's go.
No, you know what? I do not like Snake Man.
You don't like Snake Man, let's go?
No. That's not his full name anyway.
That is his full name.
Yeah.
Look on the wiki. No, I'm not editing it. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Anyways, we end off the pilot with Sarah Palmer having a vision.
Yes.
She sees a gloved hand picking up the locket that James had, that Laura also had, because Donna and James, they hid the locket. Ideally, whoever's listening to this, you should watch the episode first, then listen to it.
Yeah, we advised that. We probably should have said that beforehand, but
it's too late now.
Yeah.
James and Donna. This is first take.
First take.
Second, no. James and Donna. James and Donna. They hide the locket. Half of the locket, the other half Laura had.
They should have
known. And it was found by the police. But James's half of the locket, they hid very badly under a rock. And it's immediately found, which admittedly, I'm pretty sure the man with the gloved hand, which we're not going to say who it is yet, was watching while they were hiding it. But it was still a very bad job.
Yeah, a really bad job. So.
And then basically it ends with Sarah Palmer seeing this gloved hand picking up the rock.
And this is in a
and
vision.
There's the locket, very easily seen by anybody who was walking by and happened to pick up the rock.
Yes.
So anyways, in summarization, Don is a bad character and James is stupid, but we love him anyways.
And Doughy Paulson does not matter. I will.
Doughy Paulson does matter.
No.
He shows up one more time.
In terms of this episode, does not.
Yes, but he has long-term standing effects.
No, he doesn't.
I like to think he does.
Okay.
Anyway, that brings us to our relative conclusion, except for the segment that I included post haste or whatever. Basically, it's because the cast of Twin Peaks is so colorful and eclectic and important and integral to the entire plot of it. Because
underlined.
A lot of shows they have characters, but they're just kind of placeholders. You know, these characters push the plot forward in a very meaningful way, along with their personalities. You know, snap, snap, snap. I can't snap. I don't know if I did that already.
You did.
But basically, and so there's the segment that I like to do. You know, it's at the end of the.
He does like to do this.
I like to do this. It's fun. It's a good time for everybody.
And then the current time is 12:45.
Don't say the time. But at the end of the episode, which is our episode, I should say, which is basically who's your favorite character in this episode. Which we're gonna do every episode. We're starting here because it's the first one.
Yeah. So my favorite.
Yeah, who is your
character
favorite?
In this episode is Bobby. Not just because of his floppy hair, it's because he's so he's so charismatic, but he's also like, you know, acting like a douchebag, you know, a little bit. He's being all he's all over the place basically, and he is kind of the main source of kind of strangeness and spontaneity, I'd say, in this first episode.
Yeah.
He's really out there, and that does continue throughout
stuff.
Yeah, he's really doing stuff, and he grabs your attention, and there's a lot to like about him, there's a lot to not like about him, and there's you can tell he's just going through it. He's really a character you can tell he's conflicted, and his character progression is insanely awesome, I think.
Yes.
So. Even
for the silliness of season 2, but we'll get to it.
All right, what's your? I know you already gave an explanation.
No, but I have a different one this time.
Oh.
I have
this time because there were
no other times, just this one. But my favorite character in this episode is certainly would probably be the Super Mario coach. And you know why?
Why?
Because there was so much promise to come of his character.
He's
like, hey, Bobby's not here. He's probably didn't come to practice, you know, and there's so much promise from that dialogue, and then they just cut away, and I think it's a real shame. It's a real shame. It's a real shame.
I kind of liked your first answer better, but.
Who, Doughy Paulson?
No.
What was my first?
It was about Bobby. I mean, sorry, I said Bobby. James.
Oh, James.
Jam. Yeah.
Jam.
All right, we are going to end it right here.
Yes.
So thank you for listening.
For listening in on, what is our show called?
Twins Speak about Twin Peaks.
Yes.
That's not the whole title.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.